I'm Ryan Norris, I work for Daniel Galvin salon. This is Get the Look Again. Today we're going for a more sort of urban, sleek, rock chick look. It's a little bit complicated, but from the instructions I'm about to give you, it should make it a lot easier. So we prep the hair beforehand. We've used a mousse, and what you need to sort of prepare this is some long pins and also some grips. And what I've done, I've worked my way up from the bottom upwards. If you go from the top down, it gets a bit complicated and trying to get the hair out of the way. So you want to take sort of inch sections along the head there. And you want to get this as close to the root as possible. And then once you've got that in there, you want to take the remaining bit of hair that's left out and figure of 8. So you go in and round like this, in and round. It's really important to get all those ends in as well, because you don't want to sort of create the texture that we're going to put through here and leave those ends out. And just a grip in between the pin and pull that down to the bottom. And that basically just secures it. And what happens once these have been sort of sprayed and set, we'll then brush them out, sort of like a cool way of getting like massive sort of lift and texture out of the hair. This is something that's sort of used quite a lot in catwalk shows to get an explosion of hair. And we're only going to do this on one side of the head because the other side's going to be really sleek. I'm just going to use a little bit of hairspray on each pin, which will basically help it to set, so when we do brush it out, it's got a little bit more sort of texture. And what we're going to do now is just blow dry all these little sort of baby hairs on the sides here and get it going in the direction to which I want. So just speed up the process of these setting, I'm going to use the irons just on each individual section just for a couple of seconds. I'm just going to use a bit of hairspray just to give the roots a little bit of texture. We're using L'Oreal Infinium. It's not too strong, it's level 2, so it's quite easy to brush out. So now what I'm going to do, I want to create side chignon because it's quite short. We need to get as much sort of back combing in here as possible, just so it gives it a bit of hold. So I've now back combed. I'm using a Mason Pearson. She's really, really good for smoothing over the hair, not disturbing too much of it. Don't be afraid to use a spray because it's all about sort of getting these sides as slick and smooth as possible. All I'm going to do, I'm using curvy grips now, just to keep these sides really nice and flat in there. You've got that nice and secured on those edges there, so everything's nice and sleek. And with the other side, again, it's just a matter of sort of smoothing over these areas. Tuck this back in on itself using fine pins just to sort of get this a bit more secure. All pins are out, and you can see this sort of creates like a really sort of cool effect. So, I mean, we might leave some of these ends sort of in and just brush the roots out. We'll have a little play around with it. And just by brushing these, you can see that we sort of lose all of that beautiful curl. It just becomes European afro. You can do it with fingers as well. It just basically keeps some of the curl in there. Any ends left out, you can just hide by scrunching it with your fingers. It's a little bit big on this top bit, so what we're going to do, we're going to use some grips just to get that to sort of sit a bit flatter. This is a little trick of the trade. Call these anchors, and what you want to do is just bend these ends exactly like you would do with an anchor, and just to sort of keep any sort of like frayed bits of hair that are sort of dangling down. You literally just sort of get that in there. You can almost sort of twist those bits and it gets caught up in it, and then basically just pop them in, just hook them up. And it just sort of holds any sort of stray bits of hair up there without you sort of having to disturb anything else. And you can see they're really light, so they just stay sort of hidden. And there we have it, urban, sleek rock chick.